This is Don Pren, president of InsMark. Welcome everyone. What we're going to spend time on today is the term and invest the difference concept that has been promoted by pundits on the radio and in articles, basically saying that the only thing any client should ever do is buy term insurance and invest in mutual funds or some other side investment, and that cash value life insurance is never appropriate. And so what I'm going to show you is some of the output from the InsMark Essentials software product, which will prove mathematically that that's not the case. It's just not true. And it's not true in certain very specific circumstances, which are when clients are in high income tax brackets. And high income tax brackets are forecast for the foreseeable future, either because of six-figure income or more, or because they live in high-tax states like California or New York. So we'll just spend a few minutes and I'm going to show you the presentations that the software creates. And here there's sort of a preface. I'm going to get down to the actual numbers page. And so here you have your comparison of values page. Let me review the assumptions. We're assuming term and invest in an equity account at a 6.5% average rate, plus another 2% in dividends. So the total return rate for this term and this side fund, which is an equity account, is 8.5%. Don't think anybody can argue about that. That's, in my view, probably more than we'd have to show as an alternative. And then the dividend tax rate is 25%. The income tax rate, which is the incremental rate, is 40%. That's either someone in a high income in a zero tax state or a modest income in the state that has income tax like California, or most states. And then we've assumed that the indexed universal life, the product we're using, has a 6.4% interest rate. And here you can see this is a 45-year-old, and you'll see that we're proposing that this 45-year-old contribute $40,000 a year into the indexed universal life. We're comparing that in column 2 against a 20-year deposit term of $1,030 level for 20 years. So that means the difference goes into the equity account, the $38,970 in column 3, and then column 4 is the cash we have coming out starting at age 65. Column 5 shows how the equity account grows over time with that $38,970 contributions for 20 years. We schedule $1 million death benefit, and then the combined death benefit was the 20-year term death benefit $1 million plus the equity account. So on the index universal life, we have an accumulated value in column 9, a surrender value in column 10, and the death benefit in column 11. You'll notice the columns 7 and 11, which are the combined death benefits, are comparable in all years. They're not exact, but they're comparable. So that's sort of apples and apples. Then starting at retirement, in year 21, age 65, we started taking out $100,000 a year indexed, I think 2% indexing, something like that. And you'll notice that in year 30, the equity account is now $1,094,000, and the net cash value in the universal life product is $1,598,000. If we continue down, you'll notice that by age 84, year 40, the equity account side fund is completely depleted. It's down to $66,000 and is depleted the next year. In addition to that, we're only showing the $1 million death benefit from the term insurance to age 84, and then there's no more cost shown for that. Conversely, on the indexed universal life, we can not only continue to pay the tax-free income all the way out to age 99, but we still have $3.4 million at age 99 in net value in the policy. Other thing that I'll mention is that we showed a management fee on the equity account of 50 basis points. The average registered investment advisor who's managing money for clients charges 130 basis points. So I think we were more than fair in terms of what a client would pay an advisor, a stockbroker, or a registered investment advisor, or financial advisor. So one other thing that I needed to mention, and that is that in addition to being in a relatively high incremental income tax bracket, you also have to find a client that has the liquidity to be able to put $40,000 a year in this policy, either from current income every year or from savings and so on. So we're not talking about the middle class here. We're talking about fairly affluent clients that have six-figure incomes and have some savings. And in those cases, term and invest the difference, as you can see, is not the best option for the client in most cases. Now, this kind of begs the question, why is this? Why does this work better with an index universal life product to build tax-free income versus term insurance and an equity account in this case? And what we're going to show you, there's two primary reasons. The first reason is just costs over time. So if you look at term and an equity account, the cost elements structurally are the 20-year deposit term, $1,030 a year for 20 years, as you can see in column 2. And then the 50 basis points management fee. And this is a key component because the management fee is based on a growing equity balance. So $207, $427. Even though it's 50 basis points, we go back to the illustration, it's 50 basis points on a growing equity account. So it's 50 basis points on the total. It's called an asset under management fee. And it's something the client doesn't have to pay in index universal life products. The way their expenses are structured differently. But with these investment accounts in equities and so on, you've got a growing, yeah, it's $207 in the first year, but look at the fee in 20 years, it's $7,438 because it's 50 basis points on a relatively large equity account at that point. And then the third cost is taxes, something we don't have with the index universal life because you're able to take tax-free loans and avoid the income taxation. So if you look at the total cost of term in an equity account, you've got column 5. And if you look at this over 20, or let's say 30 years, you've got $716,000 of costs between taxes and management fees and the term costs. With the index universal life, we're at $152,000. That's why this works. Yes, we have higher costs in the early years, but we have no growing asset under management fees. The other reason this works, apart from the cost element, is that, and this is a little bit hard to grasp, but let's go back to the first illustration, the numbers page. So as you can see, there's a $1,030 term premium. We're assuming a 20-pay term policy, but the client had to earn $1,600, or if he's in a 50% tax bracket, he had to earn $2,000 to pay the tax and then have the $1,030 left for term premium. What happens with index universal life is that the cost of the mortality charges, are taken out of the cash value. So these net cash values are net. These are net of the mortality charge that's charged every month. And yet the cost basis never changes from whatever the cumulative premium is. So with this index for universal life, the cost basis is $800,000. It's not $800,000 minus the cumulative mortality charge, which would then, if you surrendered the policy, would cause you to have a taxable event equal to whatever your term premiums were. That's not how it works. Your term premiums, your mortality charges, are effectively paid with pre-tax interest that doesn't affect your cost basis. So do you want to pay your term premiums with after-tax dollars or pre-tax dollars? And that's the other reason why IUL works better over time. And one last thing I wanted to show you that I didn't get into here was, I compared over 30 years the $716,000 of total cost with the term and side fund versus $152,000 with the IUL. Where'd that $152,000 come from? Well, these numbers are a combination of mortality charges and expense loads. And the software lets you break those out and show the client the details on those. But this is the actual cost in this particular policy every year. And so that's where that comes from. So I hope that's helpful. Let's not forget that the Pundits are getting advertising from term insurance providers and from mutual fund providers. So they're either in partnership with them or they're major advertisers on their platforms. So, this asset under management thing is a giant advantage that we have over time. Someone needs life insurance for 5 or 10 years, or someone's middle income, of course they should buy term insurance. But wealthy clients with high income and high income tax should seriously consider cash value life insurance, whether that's universal life or whole life or whatever version it is. We can argue about that another day. But they should seriously consider this. And one more important point. With the InsMark Essentials software, you can run this type of analysis in the same consistent way with any cash value life insurance product, and you can also show any term insurance product and virtually any side fund investment. And we deal with the different taxation with tax-free bond funds or dividend and equity accounts. It's all there. So that consistency should be very helpful to you and your proposal staff. Thanks everybody, and hope this was helpful.